present to you our study about paraverbal cues across different areas in the Philippines. So this includes different individuals like Subanen, Chabacano, Zamboangueño, Dabangueño, and Tarso. So the Philippines houses various native languages with distinctive linguistic traits and cultural significance. English and Filipino, the country's two national languages, coexist with these native tongues. So our basis of our study is the 1987 Constitution, Article 14, Section 7, which states that regional languages will be used as an auxiliary medium of instruction and an initial language for literacy. Also, this is supported by Department of Education Order Number 74, Series of 2009, which institutionalized mother tongue-based multilingual education and strengthened by Republic Act Number 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. So this study explores how these nonverbal vocal cues vary among speakers from different linguistic regions. By analyzing these patterns, we aim to show how regional identity influences spoken communication, which is especially important in multilingual society like ours. So in this study, we listen people from different regions and we analyze and determine their paraverbal cues or prosodic features. This includes the speech rate, intonation, and pitch. Also, we want to understand their way of speaking, show where they came from. So this is important because in a country with many languages, what we say or how we say something can mean a lot. So for their task, may I call on Ian?
Their task is to interview 6 people from different areas here in the Philippines. So we are going to analyze each responses of the respondents using in their first language. So focus was on paraverbal features like pitch, intonation, and speech rate. So to accomplish this task, an open-ended question was formulated, which was of relevance in the Philippine context. So the question we asked to the respondents is, with the upcoming election 2025 and a heated discussion of the senatorial positions, who would be your top three senatorial preference and why? So, in interviewing or enriching our respondents, we conducted a video interview to our respondents from different areas in the Philippines through Facebook Messenger. So first, we approached and greeted the respondents through online messaging. So second, we requested their consent to participate in the activity. To guarantee understanding, we reviewed the interview's purpose and processes in details. Next, we asked permission to record the interview and assured them that their identity will remain anonymous by limiting the access to the interview data. So after the respondents consented, their demographic information were collected, including the age, the gender, the address, and their ethnicity. So after the respondents were asked the question, with the upcoming election 2025 and a heated discussion of senatorial positions, who would be your top 3 senatorial preferences and why? So to obtain more answers, follow-up questions were posed as needed. So lastly, we thank the respondents for their participation, cooperation, and time. So in our research, we have 6 respondents. So our respondent 1 is 24 years old, male, and currently living at Umaga, Zamboanga City. So his number of years residency is 20 years and his ethnicity is Bisaya. So our respondent pool is 20 years old, female, and currently living at Binangonan, Payao, Zamboanga, Sibugay. So number of years of residency, 20 years, and her ethnicity is Subanen. So the third respondent is 24 years old, female, and living at Kisan, Davao City, Davao del Sur. Number of years residency, 4 years, and her ethnicity is Visayan. Sa respondent 4, she is 19 years old, female, currently living at Iguan, Zamboanga City, Zamboanga del Sur. Number of years of residency is 19 years, and her ethnicity is Tausug. Next, the respondent 5 is 23 years old, female, and living at Sandangan, Zamboanga del Norte. Number of years of residency is 23 years, and her ethnicity is Subanen. Sa last respondent, or the respondent 6, ang age is 23 years old, male, and living at Zamboanga City. Number of years of residency is 23 years, and his ethnicity is Visayan. To further discuss or to further explain our research, may call on Ms. Noben.
So the analysis on the paraverbal of the respondents mainly focused on 3 prosodic features: the pitch, intonation, and speech rate. So in order to determine and analyze these prosodic features, PRAAT was utilized. So it is a software program primarily used for analyzing and reconstructing acoustic speech signals. So for pitch, the standard pitch floor is 75 Hz and the ceiling pitch is 500 Hz. So for the respondent 1 uses different pitch averages in his sentences during his speaking in the span of 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So there was a total of 17 sentences in his response that was analyzed by PRAAT. So we analyzed the mean pitch of each sentences and get the total, which is the total mean pitch is 144.78 Hz. So from the table 1 of pitch production of respondent 1, the total mean pitch was recorded at 144.78 Hz, suggesting a moderately high vocal tone, almost surpassing the standard speaking fundamental frequency, or SFF, for male, which is ranged from 100 Hz to 146 Hz, according to Joffer and Mikos 2005. So based on the PRAAT analysis, as seen in Figure 1, the respondent exhibited a dynamic pitch and varied intonation with a constant rising and falling of pitch. So, as you can see here sa kaning spectrogram, di ba, makita ninyo diri sa spectrogram na dynamic siya, kay daghan siya, murag dili bitaw ka ng stable ang iyaang movement na sound. So, daghan siya ka ng rise and fall intonation. And then, this indicates an expressive way of speaking of the respondent. Notably, as shown in Figure 2, so sa Figure 2, many sentences ended with a rising intonation even when they were declarative, which does not follow the standard English intonation patterns that typically require a falling tone at the end of a statement. So, di ba, sa ato or like ang daandan yun, usually, inig mo storya kay, di ba, at the end of the statement, kay paubos magid siya. Pero, diri sa yaha, kay sa kanang, murag, dili man siguro tanan, pero almost every end of the statement niya is mo rise iya, murag mag-rising intonation siya. So, parehaan murag, ano siya nga, so, ni nombre y Brando Valcail y Cardio el W e tu Hermana. So, imbis pa end siya, may siyang Hermana. So, napataas niya. And then, additionally, there were very short or no pauses when transitioning between sentences, which contributed to a fast-paced delivery. So using PRAAT, the calculated speech rate was 4.6 syllables per second. Okay, so let us proceed to respondent 2. So respondent 2 is also a female speaker who used varying pitch levels during her 32.5 second speech segment, which was analyzed using PRAAT once again. So her speech consisted of 5 sentences, each with observable pitch patterns. So the researchers recorded the total mean pitch at 209.98 Hz, which is considered within the expected range for female speakers. So kaya ang expected range sa female speakers is 108 to 221 Hz. So that is why it is considered within the expected range for female speakers and tends toward a mid-register, giving a steady, flat tonal quality. So the maximum pitch reached 267.738 Hz, while the minimum pitch dropped significantly to 86.179 Hz, indicating a wide pitch range. So from the table of pitch production of respondent 2, the mean pitch suggests a mid-vocal register for female speaker since 209.98 na siya, niya ang expected is 108 to 221 Hz. Based on the PRAAT analysis, the respondent displayed an almost monotone or flat intonation pattern with minimal expressive pitch variation throughout the utterances. So the pitch remained relatively stable in the 200 to 220 Hz range for most of the duration, maintaining a steady and neutral vocal tone. However, as shown in Figure 3, so there is a Figure 3, there were sudden sharp drops in pitch ranging from gikan sa 200 to 220 Hz ni baba siya to 90 to 170 Hz, particularly noticeable in specific sentence transitions or word endings. So, as you can see here, sa spectrogram again, sa Figure 3, kay na siya mga sudden drops of pitch. These abrupt dips contribute to a sense of vocal restraint or reduced emotional emphasis and delivery. So the lack of significant pitch rise or fall implies a speech pattern that may be interpreted as controlled, possibly formal, or disengaged. So kaning amo ang conversation with respondent 2 is more like kanang medyo layo-layo siya sa casual, although we are aiming for casual, which mao among gibuhat through video call. So naging storya media through video call, pero ang iyang response as analyzed sa PRAAT is murag layo siya sa casual ba, kay wala man gud kayo siya kanang wala kayo siya poses and everything, but straight ra bitaw. So mura siya nahulog og formal, mura siya naay kopya bitaw, murag nag-study siya daan something ana, which is dili man sad, pero ang pag-analyze sa PRAAT is inana. Then, notably, there was little to no intonational rise or expressive modulation, which typically signals affect or emphasis, especially at sentence boundaries. So again, katulad without the presence of pauses, kay tungod sa kanang iyaang ka straight, mura siya kahimong formal. Mura siya ga speech na lang, mura siya wala ga casual nga kaistorya sa mua. And then, this speech behavior suggests a flat delivery style lacking strong intonational cues. And then the researchers also calculated the speech rate at 5.63 syllables per second, which is relatively fast and indicates a quick pace of delivery with limited pausing. So again, 5.63 syllables per second ang iyaang pagstorya, which is relatively fast. So katulad again, mura siyang nahulog og formal yun, murag wala dili siya casual nga istorya. The combination of fast delivery and minimal pitch modulation contributed to a mechanical or less emotionally varied tone. So the speech's rapid pace, along with a few or brief pauses between sentences, is characteristic of a speaker focused on information transmission rather than emotional or expressive articulation. So sa mong pag-converse, more on ano siya kanang delivering of information rather than sharing kung unsa to yung thoughts about sa topic nga ihatag. So using PRAAT, These acoustic features reflect how respondent 2 maintained a consistent pitch band with minimal expressive deviation, relied on rapid delivery, and presented speech patterns that are steady and flat, lacking dynamic variation. So, kung ang respondent 1 na mo is dynamic siya, ang kanyang mode is hindi siya dynamic. Let us proceed to the third respondent or respondent 3. So, our respondent 3 is still a female, which exhibited a mean pitch of 212.78 Hz, which is indicative of a moderately high vocal tone since again, ang expected range is 108 Hz to 221 Hz. The maximum pitch recorded was 298.227 Hz, while the minimum pitch was 86.928 Hz, suggesting a significant range in vocal variation during the speech. So again, nanapod siya yung sudden drops or kanang wide ang vocal range since from 298.227 Hz ni kuan siya ni ubos siya of 86.928 Hz. So the researchers measured the speech rate at 3.59 syllables per second, which is relatively moderate. So this moderate ra ang 3.59 syllables per second. So moderate ra ang iyang pagstorya, dili na kayo pas-pas, dili na pud kayo hinay. So this rate indicates a thoughtful delivery allowing for clarity and comprehension, although it may also reflect the presence of pauses and silence throughout the speech. So the total duration of the speech was 1 minute and 42 seconds, during which the respondent articulated 9 sentences. So, in terms of intonation, the analysis revealed that the respondent's speech was almost monotone, lacking significant variation in pitch across the sentences. So this monotonic quality may affect the listener's engagement and the overall expressiveness of the speech. So again, ang iyang pag-deliver is almost monotone. So murag galak siya og emotional and expressiveness sa iyang pag-deliver. And then figure 4. Sa figure 4 shows a portion of the recording wherein pauses are visible. The researchers observed this constant pattern throughout the response. So kung tanawin nato diri sa spectrogram sa figure 4, dili nato makita ang saya. Pag-analyze sa pra at saya ang response. So diri makita nato nga daghan siyang pauses. So there are visible constant pauses, and then numerous pauses could suggest deliberate pacing, possibly to emphasize specific points or allow for reflection, but it may also contribute to a less dynamic delivery. So overall, while the respondent's speech and speech rate are within acceptable ranges, the lack of intonational variation or katong the rise and fall intonation and the frequent pauses may detract from the effectiveness of the communication. So for the remaining respondents, let us call Ms. Francine.
Which falls within the typical range for female speakers, wherein the typical range is 188 Hz to 221 Hz according to Belfer and Nichols 2004. So this suggests a moderately high vocal tone contributing to the overall expressiveness of her speech. So the researchers also measured the speech rate of this respondent at 3.21 syllables per second, which is the average speech rate we have measured with all the respondents. So observations from the analysis. Using Pratt software indicate that the respondent's speech included many pauses and silences, which may have contributed to a more deliberate pacing. However, these pauses also led to an almost monotone quality in her delivery. So due to this pauses and silences, her speech would be said to be almost monotone. So in summary, while the respondent's speech and the speech rate are within acceptable ranges, the overall delivery could benefit from increased intonational variation and reduced pauses to create a more engaging and dynamic speaking style. Next is for respondent 5. The respondent 5, the mean pitch or the total mean pitch was recorded at 228.456 Hz, which is higher than the typical range for female speakers. So this is in comparison to the mean pitch that was presented before, this was higher than the typical range of 188 Hz to 221 Hz. So this suggests a moderately high vocal tone that can enhance expressiveness in her speech. So it was recorded for the speech rate of this respondent at two syllables per second, which is relatively slow and the slowest recorded speech rate among the respondents, with respondent 2 having the highest speech rate, which is 5.63 syllables per second. However, this result for respondent 5 allows for clarity and comprehension. This rate indicates a deliberate and thoughtful delivery, giving the listener ample time to process the conveyed information. So observation from the analysis rate using PRAAT software indicate that respondent's speech included many pauses and silences, contributing to a somewhat monotone quality in her delivery. So this is almost the same with respondent 4, that it is close to somewhat monotone quality in delivery. So in summary, while the respondent's speech and speech rate are within acceptable ranges, the overall delivery could benefit from increased intonational variation, reduced pauses to create a more engaging dynamic speaking style, which is almost the same with respondent 4. So the last respondent is respondent 6. So the total mean pitch calculated for respondent 6 is 114.28 Hz. This indicates a moderately low vocal tone within the standard speaking fundamental frequency for male, which is 100 Hz to 146 Hz. So if this result is compared to the first female respondent, which was respondent 1, this has a more lower pitch or mean pitch. The first male. So, using PRAAT software for acoustic analysis, the respondent's speech exhibited relatively restrained intonation, with fewer dramatic rises and falls in pitch compared to more expressive or dynamic speakers. So this may reflect a more neutral or steady vocal delivery style. So if compared to the first respondent, the first male respondent, because this is the second male respondent, this has a more neutral or steady vocal delivery, wherein the first one had a more dynamic, wherein the pitch was constantly changing constantly rising and falling. So the researchers recorded the speech rate at 3.68 syllables per second, or lasting for 2 minutes and 9 seconds. So as visualized in PRAAT, shown here in figure 5, the intonation patterns appeared to lean toward conventional declarative forms with falling intonation as sentence ends being more common than rising contours. So this suggests adherence to standard English intonation patterns. So if we go back to the respondent 1, wherein it was found that in most of his statements, so the sentence or the statement ends in a rising intonation. However, this follows or ends with a falling intonation, which follows the standard English pattern in intonations. So, if we compare this, there is a difference that could be found because since both are male and both are situated in Zamboanga City. So overall, the respondent speech as analyzed through PRAAT reflects a controlled pitch profile and potentially steady delivery with moderate variation in vocal tone. So next, let's move on to the findings of the research. So first, both male respondents had mean pitch values within typical male range, which was 100 Hz to 146 Hz. So next is female respondents generally had mean pitch values within the typical female range except for respondent 5, which was higher than the typical range. Next is number 3, respondent 1 had a total mean pitch of 144.78 Hz, which is moderately high for a male. Now, meanwhile, respondent 6 had a total mean pitch of 114.28 Hz, indicating a moderately low vocal tone for a female. So this is what I have said earlier when we compare respondent 1 and respondent 6, which are both male and situated from the same area. They have opposite results. Next, the female respondents showed a range of mean pitches, with respondent 2 having a relatively low mean pitch of 209.98 Hz in comparison to others such as respondent 5 having 228.456 Hz. So respondent 2 had the lowest among the female respondents in terms of mean pitch. Next, respondent 5 reached the highest maximum pitch at 351.170 Hz, suggesting more moments of heightened emotional emphasis. For the six findings, several respondents 2, 3, 4, and 5 were described as having speech that tended towards monotone or flat intonation, indicating less variation in pitch and expressiveness. Next is respondent 1 was noted for having dynamic pitch and varied intonation with constant rising and falling of pitch, indicating an expressive way of speaking. This in contrast to the more monotone patterns observed in other respondents. So this means the respondent 1 was found to have the most dynamic pitch with the pitch rising and falling in constantly in comparison to the other respondents. So to continue on with the findings, please note that.
So for the 8 findings, respondent 1 also had a notable pattern of ending sentences with a rising intonation. So sa tanan mo nga na-analyze ng respondents, ang sa kay respondent 1 ra ang naay nakita nga gakuan siya o exhibit siya o every notable pattern of ending sentences with a rising intonation, even in declarative statements, which is the standard of which is not the standard of English intonation. So number 9, respondents 1 and 2 had a relatively fast speech rate of 4.6 and 5.63 syllables per second. And then number 10, respondent 5 had the slowest speech rate at 2 syllables per second. And then number 11, respondents such as respondent 3, 4, and 5 were noted to have numerous pauses and silences which contributed to a less dynamic delivery. Respondent 2 also had a fast pace of delivery with limited pausing. So kung respondent 3, 4, and 5 has notable pauses and silences, si respondent 2 had a fast pace of delivery with limited pausing. And then number 12, respondents 1, 3, and 6 shares the Visayan ethnicity, yet still exhibit variations in their paraverbal cues. So, although si respondent 1, 3, and 6 are from the Visayan ethnicity, yet they still exhibit different variations in their paraverbal cues. So, bisan pag parehas sila o gigikanan or parehas sila o ethnicity, nagyapoy visible na variation sa ilang mga paraverbal cues. So, respondent 1 had a more dynamic intonation and faster speech rate compared to respondent 3 and respondent 6. Okay, number 13, respondent 2 and 5, both Subanen respondents were female were characterized to have speech that tended towards monotone or flat intonation. And then for the last findings, respondents 2 and 5 who shares the same ethnicity shows opposite results in speech rate. So respondent 2 measured the fastest, while respondent 5 measured the slowest. So for the conclusion, may call on Ms. Sophia Quasa.
So for the conclusion, the study shows that the way people speak. The study shows that the way people speak, such as their intonation, pitch, and speech rate, can be very different from person to person. Even though both men and women had normal pitch levels, some had higher and lower voices. Like respondent 1 had a higher voice than respondent 6 had a lower voice. Some people, like respondent 1, spoke with a lot of expression, while others spoke in a flatter, more even tone. People also spoke at different speeds, like the respondent 1 and respondent 2, which spoke quickly and smoothly, while respondent 5 spoke more slowly and paused a lot. Respondent 1 also ended statements with a rising tone, which made their speech sound more expressive. The study also found that where someone comes from, like the region or ethnic group, affects how they speak. For example, even people from same place, like same group, like Visayan or Subanen, had different ways of speaking. This shows that how we talk is shaped by our personality, culture, and language. And it's important to understand these differences to communicate well with others. For the recommendations, future researchers who intend to replicate these studies should further explore with a larger sample size and broader representation of regional and linguistic groups in the Philippines is recommended. This future research should aim to first delve deeper into the specific influences of different Philippine languages and dialects on paraverbal cues. Next, investigate the impact of these paraverbal variations on communication effectiveness and potential misunderstanding. Last, develop culturally sensitive communication strategies and language teaching approaches that incorporate awareness of paraverbal differences to promote clearer and more effective interaction across diverse groups in the Philippines. And that's all for our report.